No. Thank goodness.
That would be funny.
Thank goodness. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. Hocus pocus. It's time to focus.
Ew.
I learned that from an elementary teacher yesterday. Okay. So we're going to shift graphs, and the good news is you guys have all done this before, so this is going to be somewhat of a refresher. But we're going to talk about any function, and this is going to look really mathy, but I'm going to talk about it in just a minute. A f of x minus h plus k.
Oh, I saw that on the ACT.
Okay. This is just talking about a shift for any function. The shift that we have done, well, we did a little bit of a couple things, but the one that we spent the most time on in Algebra 2 was when we had something that looked like this. F of x equals 3 times x plus 2 quantity squared minus 8. I won't use 3 again. Okay, so this, what I just wrote up here, is a generic version of a specific function. This is saying A is going to tell us a shift, H is going to tell us a shift, and K is going to tell us a shift. The F out front here is just saying this is some kind of function. Okay, so this is really mathy. You don't have to know this. What I want you to notice is the part that I have arrows. Those are the numbers you're going to be looking to change the graph. We're not really caring about the shape of the graph today. We're just caring about what the shift of the graph would be. So let's talk about A, H, and K. A tells us two things. I should look at my notes and see. Yeah, oh, I'm following what I was going to do. A tells us two things. It's going to tell us if it's like a normal graph or if it's flipped upside down. And that deals with if it's positive or if it's negative. The graph won't always look like a parabola, but I just use that for an example. A, if it's positive, it's going to be the normal graph. If it's negative, then it's flipped over the x-axis, whatever the shape of the graph is. Okay? We're not, like I said, we're not worried about the shape right now. We're just worried about the shift. Shift with an F. Okay? A also tells us if it's wider or narrower. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Okay, H, does anybody remember what the H tells you? H is special.
Is it
Left or right, and what else is special about H?
It's Y, or is it which way you go?
It tells you left or right, yeah, but
If it's negative, it's going positive. And if
right, it's opposite. So H tells you your left or right shift, and you look at the opposite sign. So because this is a +2, we would actually go left 2. You look at the opposite. And if H tells us left or right, what does K tell us?
Up or down.
Up or down, and K use the same sign. So example 1 is going to look like, I should probably use that one, but I'll use the book. Are you guys good with all this? I'll scroll down just a little bit. Well, no, I'll leave it up here. Okay, so example 1 says we're going to talk about the shift of each one of these. X cubed minus 1, and H of X is going to be X plus 2 quantity cubed plus 1. So in this, it says use the graph of f of x equals x cubed to sketch the graph of each function. So I'm going to show you what x cubed looks like. Maybe. So this is my original function. It's going through 0, 0, and they would tell you you're using this as the original. Now we're going to regraph the next two, and I'll use two different colors. We'll use red for g of x, and talk about what the shift of that graph would be. let's actually start with h of x. I think it'll be easier. Okay, what does this plus 2 tell me inside the function here?
Left or right?
Okay, so the plus 2 is going to be
Negative.
negative, that's left and negative together. Negative 2, okay, so left 2, and then what does the plus 1 tell me? Up 1. So I'm going to take a point that I know, which is 0, 0, and I'm going to go left 2 and up 1, and then I'm just going to redraw this graph, sketch the graph. So that's really all we're doing today is we'll be told what the shape of the graph is. You just need to come up with what the shift of the graph is. So this one up here is missing what letter? H or K? H. Inside, we don't have anything inside the function that's being cubed. So it just has a K. So there's only one shift here, and what is that one shift?
Can I go down 1?
Down 1. So I'm going to take this and go down 1, and then I'm just going to sketch this graph. So that's the one that I have in red. So far, easy enough. I'm going to stick with this same one, but I'm going to give you one more. I don't have another color, though, except for this green. You're not going to be able to see. Okay, I'm going to call this K of X equals, and I'm just going to say negative X cubed. What is the negative out front going to do?
Flip all the problems.
It's going to flip it. So I haven't shifted it left or right or up or down. So it's going to flip from this black graph we have here. So when I flip this, it looks like that. Sorry, that's light. So it just took and totally flipped over the x-axis. So when your A term, the one out in front, is negative, it just flips down over the x-axis.
So when it's cubed, it's like that, but when it's squared, it's a parabola?
Parabola. And I think all of these today, they're going to show you what the shape of the graph is. You're just focusing on what the shift is doing. Okay? Let me look here. Okay, let's do one more different,
Is that all we're doing today?
shape. Yeah, just shifting graphs. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Is tomorrow
So
hard?
this time, I'm not even sure what tomorrow is. This time, here's my original function. So it's going to start at 0, 0. This is the original shape of the square root of x. I want you guys to graph this one. G of x equals negative x minus 2. So it's got two shifts going on here.
So it doesn't matter if it's in the square?
No, because that's just the function. It's like it was in the cubed a minute ago. So this is just in the function. So this would be your h, because it's inside the function.
Oh, so, okay.
So you're going off of this is the original function. And then what does the minus 2 tell you for your shift?
So right to.
Right 2. So I'm taking this point and I'm going right 2. And what does the negative out front tell me I need to do? Flip it down. So this is what that graph should look like.
So I was right. It just didn't.
You just what?
I just didn't think so.
You're right. Don't second guess yourself. Okay, let's talk about the A term, making it wider or narrower, and then we're going to be done. So for this one, we're going to use the graph, the original graph. There we go. F of x equals the absolute value of x. And here's the shape of that graph. It's going to have a vertex at 0, 0. Does anybody remember what the shape of the absolute value graph is? V, yes. Very good. We're going to graph two of these. One of them in red, we're going to graph g of x equals 4 absolute value of x. And the other one we'll graph in blue that we'll call h of x is 1/4 the absolute value of x. So the A term tells us if it's positive or negative, means it's regular shaped or flipped down. But the A term, the actual number of the A term, we don't worry about positive or negative, just the number tells you if the graph is wider or narrower from the original. So I want you to think of this A term like slope, even though it's not really a slope. I want you to think of it like slope. So if I have a slope of 4, that means I'm rising how much? 4 and running? 1. So if I'm going to graph that in red, it would be narrower because I'm going to go up 4 and over 1. You're going up more than you're going out. So if I think of the blue graph as slope, I'm rising 1, but I'm running 4. So whatever the graph is now is wider than what the original graph is. And if you're on the ACT or something, it might call this like a compression or a stretch. The blue graph would be compressed down and the red graph would be stretched up. But the best way to think of it, because we know slope so well, is to think of it like slope to be able to determine if it's going to be wider or narrower. How's that? Easy enough today? I have kind of a weird assignment, so you're going to want to write this down. It's 224, 5A, B, and E, 6, B, and E, 7A, B, and D, 9 through 11, and then 20 through 26, but this part's just going to be even, just that last part.